Brother, we are officially live. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning to you. Top of it, grand rising wherever you're tapping into and from. And if you are seeing this live, welcome. If you're going to see this after the fact, well, welcome to you as well. This morning, as every Sunday, we have a very special guest. We are here in Kansas City, Missouri. And today, our special guest is Bump Jonas, host of the Sprinkle Some Salt podcast. He's also a local entertainer here, founder of the Mecca as well. We're definitely going to be talking about the Mecca as well. And you, like myself, if I'm not mistaken, you're a transplant to Kansas City as well,
Absolutely.
originally from Houston, if my research serves me correctly. So, hey man, I just wanted to give a quick little introduction to you. I'm gonna turn it over to you. I'm gonna let you, in your own words, let the people outside know who you are and what you're about, bro. And then we're just gonna have a conversation.
Oh man, wow. Well, thank you. That was a good warm welcome. Really, I don't really need to add more. You did a great job. But yeah, I'm Bump Jonas. I am the founder, the host of Sprinkle Some Salt podcast. Also the founder and host of the Mecca. I'm a wizard. I'm a forge. I'm a manifester. I am the quasi brand manager for Thrax Pastry, which is my wife's company. I'm just really I'm a man about town. I am a transplant. I'm originally from Houston, Third Ward, Texas. Um, a little bit further, I was born in California, raised in Houston, and
Okay.
really came alive here in KC. Um, I just, you know what? The best way to describe me is I talk shit in random places and see what happens. You know what I mean? That's just kind of how it works for me. Um, and I think everything for me is defined, or the blueprint and the benchmark or the soundscape for me is really defined by hip hop. That's my culture.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm interested and I'm involved in, I'm engaged in anything and everything that is creative, hustle related, or Kansas City. If it's about the community and pushing things forward and helping us profit off of our passions, not because we want to, because in some cases we need to, then that's what I'm here to do. That's what I'm about.
Man, I love that. We're definitely going to touch on a couple different things that you said there, for sure. But I love, and I even appreciate the fact that you get it. That hip hop is a culture. A lot of people think hip hop is something that you do. No, 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 no. Hip hop is a culture. There's literally fucking principles to hip hop. So much so that there's a declaration of this shit sitting in the Hip Hop National Museum in Washington, D.C., as presented by, as well, KRS-One, of course, the teacher, to the United Nations back in 2021. So, people, do your homework, okay? Hip hop is a culture, something that you live, not something that you do. So,
Man,
thank you for
and
that. I appreciate
it's
that.
so easy to in that sense, like it's the way the culture is set up. It's so easy to really make that differentiation, because within hip hop there's so many different things that you can do. You know what I mean? So it's like, you don't do hip hop, you live
Mm-hmm.
it, you experience it, you walk with it, you grow from it, you learn from it, but you can be it, you can't do it. You know what I mean? So it's kind of a version of, it's got to be in you, not on you.
Man, is into that truth, and it's all based in respect for one another, right? And I think a lot of people misconstrue that sometimes as well. Like, I don't care who it is, who you are. Like, it is a culture. It's not a color, right? It's, as long as you're
Yes.
gonna be nice and respectful to the next person, man, then you can live respect, right? That's what it's ultimately built on, and just having some fun with it, man. So I
Mm.
just wanted to start there because that really, out of everything that you said, that really hit me, because not that it surprised me that it came from you, from what I already know about you, but I wanted to make a point of that for anybody that doesn't know the distinction,
Mm.
of the fact that it's a culture. It's not something that you do. So I appreciate you saying that, man. So transplant like me. How long you been in Kansas City at this point for yourself?
Oh man, going on 20 years now. 20 years. Yeah, 2 decades. My wife and I base it off of how long I've been married, and I know that I was here about a year and a half, almost 2 years before I met, and then eventually married my wife, and we've been together 18 years. So um,
That's
I'm
what's
right
up.
at that
Salute.
20-year mark from KC.
Man, there you go. One thing I heard you say, and I like the way that you put it as well. The Paris of the Plains, um, the Paris of the Plains, and also I heard you say somewhere along the way, Silicon Prairie. If I'm quoting you correct, tell me. You've been here 20 years, right? And
Mhm.
and and I know enough, because those things are part of the things that drew me to and my family to move here from an art perspective, but you've been here for almost 2 decades, damn near 2 decades. Tell me what that really means. Tell the people outside what that really means to you, because people are not going to think Paris of the Plains and Silicon Prairie when you think of Kansas City, Missouri.
Right, and I absolutely understand that because Kansas City. So here's something that I think is interesting, kind of a tangent, but I'll answer your question. Um, when people think of the average American, they're really thinking of the Midwest conservative American, which, if you boil it down, is your average Kansas Citian. And the reason I say that is they assume that we have an accent or no accent. It's a flat, basic tone. They assume that we dress in kind of muted colors, but we're just the greatest tourists and we're super nice and hospitable. That's the Midwest. If you really
Hmm.
think about how people are, that's the Midwest, right? Okay, so and what I mean by when I use that reference, what I mean by that is that the influence that we have, whether subtly, indirectly, or directly, is why I say Paris of the Plains, or that's how we are, how we proof of it. Because you look at France, and France is known for this thing, but it also, when you think of Europe, you think of France. You don't think of Britain. You don't think of, you might think of Italy, but you're usually thinking of French cuisine, French style, right? A lot of the subtle muted tones, the approaches that people have where it comes to fashion, the soulfulness that they have when it comes to their religion is from the Bible Belt, which is a lot of it is, let's not say all of the Midwest, but the Midwest contributes to that. Let's not forget about jazz.
Hmm.
Um, um, a lot of people forget that the seat of resistance in the Midwest when it comes to political issues, slavery, a lot of that kind of had not started, but had some influence from the Midwest, right? The Kansas Missouri rivalry, right? So my point in saying the Paris of the Plains, which is a nickname that they have, that's been there, I didn't make that up, um, is because of the style, the fashion, which is the style, the sounds, the soul, the influence that emanates from the center out. A lot of people forget or assume that because we're in the middle, because we're the cardiac, we absorb sounds and influence from the outside in. We just assume because New York and LA are the left and right, we're grabbing that sound, and now the South. Well, no, some of that is from us, no knock at all to E40, but Herb the Phenom made a mention that we have multiple ways of saying I'm pulling up, which I just use a slang right there. We have multiple ways of saying I'm going to arrive or I'm about to leave or what's going on, right? That's part of the Midwest culture in a sense, So again, that's to me Paris of the Plains, the influence of style and culture and flows, chopper style. You want to give it to any state you want, but it's still here in the Midwest. And the greatest representative right now is Tech Nine when it
Yeah.
comes to that style, right? And people can complain or they can contest it all they want, but it is what it is, right? When it comes to Silicon Prairie, this is one of the reasons. This is really, to me, ironically, one of the reasons why I started saying KC is the new Mecca. From a music standpoint, I completely see it and understand it. I've experienced it. But when you look around and you see that we got World Cup coming, we've had NFL drafts here, Coca-Cola has been here. For multiple years that we've not noticed, almost over a decade, we've had film productions that have been doing shows here, right? The movies, This Is Us or Last of Us, right? There's a lot of production that's happening behind the scenes. All of that requires technology.
Yep.
Google has been here for a long, long time. There's a lot of data warehouses, data centers. DST was here in downtown. um, marketing, graphic design. My point is, everything that I've described has a technological infrastructure. They're all here. They're already here. They've been here. So that Silicon Valley is where they had a concentration of executives, infrastructure, concepts, ideas, and things emanated from there. What was also happening at the same time, and this happened when I was in Cali, I was seeing this happen. And then I got here and I saw it happen even more. Executives from the coast realized the value, they realized the time efficiency, and they realized the influence that they could gain being in the Midwest and only being at most 8 hours drive from another surrounding region, right? So they're taking meetings and they're working their work week in these remote places and they're flying right back home, right?
Super convenient. Super convenient.
So that's where the Silicon Prairie comes from. Again, that's not a name that I generated. That's out there, right? And I think it's because of the sphere of influence that the Midwest has always had. And it is, we've never, I'm going to go on a side, a bit of a rant
Go for
here.
it, bro. This is your show today, bro. You go on whatever rant and tangent you want.
I think that we inherently have always known that we're the heartbeat of America, the breadbasket, the cardiac, but we've never owned it because of our conservative, humble nature, right? And so now we're getting, or we have been in I'll use this word very specifically. From my perspective, it's been an insidious creep backwards into the heartbeat from these coastal places. And where we're at now is we're recognizing that we're getting attention. And so we're trying to prepare and adjust, enhance, enforce our infrastructure to match the needs of what's outside, not realizing that what's outside is coming because of what we have inside. You know what I mean? And so that that's why I am the way I am when it comes to Kansas City. When I do the things I do, how I approach the things I do, how I talk to the artists, the businesses, the other creatives, engaging other podcasts, because um, competition is inherent in the system that we're in, but it doesn't mean that we can't do commerce and build community at the same time. So,
Man, so true. And that's one thing that I've come to appreciate about Kansas City and the Midwest as a whole, honestly. Like, I grew up in Bridgeport, Connecticut, 25 miles, 30 miles as the crow flies from New York City, right? So very
okay.
urban, very rat racy in the Northeast coast, right? I spent the first 30 years there, moved to Colorado, which was a good, experience for the 13 years there. But I got to tell you, man, since I've moved to the Midwest, I wish I would have knew about it sooner, honestly,
Right.
because it really is.
Right.
And I'm going to even say specifically Kansas City, because before we hopped on live, we were having a conversation, and my family and I spent 18 months in Oklahoma City. It was part of our 10-year plan. We were going to stay in Oklahoma City for 10 years. And then we ended up in Kansas City. And had we known what Kansas City had to offer when we were looking to move from Colorado to Oklahoma City, and we can confidently say it now, because even aside from being here for 5 months now, in the form of living, we had probably came up here like 3, 4, 5 times, in the last year or so before we even moved here. And there's everything that you said, from Silicon Prairie to Paris to the Plains. The arts here is huge, and every art. I don't care if you're talking music, theater, painting, drawing, like literally any type of art is here, and that's very big for my family and I. With me being an artist, as far as music goes, my wife being an artist and working on her tattooing as well, because she's been a drawer her whole life, and painting, like, man, like it's really dope. Her and I joke, because she's originally a native of Colorado and me from Connecticut. Like, the way I best describe Kansas City is if Connecticut and Colorado had a baby, like,
There you
for
go.
real,
There you
because you
go.
don't necessarily have the mountains, but you got the hills. Like,
Yes.
seeing all the greenery and trees around here reminds me of my place of origin. Bridgeport, Connecticut is literally dubbed the Park City because of all the trees
Oh,
um,
nice. Okay.
that are there. Even yesterday, our daughter Jupiter found like a river type of deal down in Lee Summit, near the High V that we typically shop at from time to time, where I didn't go with them. We had our Put the Guns Down, We Outside live cast yesterday. So I stayed back, and but Wifey P brought some pictures and videos back, and it looks like a little river type of deal that we would have went to in Colorado. So
See, yeah,
there's a little bit of everything, which I think is really good.
that's what drove me to KC. Or I'm not gonna say what keeps me here. It's just something that I continue to look around and be like, yep, I love it here. Is the greenery, right? And I'll let that entendre sit there, pun intended. But the fact that it is so green, and there's a little bit of home wherever you're from, because the other thing about it though is Kansas City in the Midwest does have a lot of transplants.
Mm-hmm.
It's not transient like Vegas, but people do come here to get away from things. People come here to restart and refresh, and people come here to try a lot of things. I've learned that in my what, maybe 4 years podcasting and interviewing. I'm got to be over 1,000 plus by now, or close to it, right? And a lot of people that rep KC or have been in KC have connections or are from somewhere outside of the Midwest in a lot of ways. And something keeps drawing people here, man, and so I think it's the scenery, I think it's the energy, but that greenery and the nature that we have in Missouri and the access you have to it, I think it's something that brings people and keeps people, in my opinion.
No, I agree. And speaking about the culture, I really appreciate the culture as well, because that's one thing that I was lacking when I moved from Connecticut to Colorado way back when, and certainly Oklahoma as well. Like it was so weird. I mean, growing up in Bridgeport, Connecticut, it's a melting pot.
Okay.
Literally a melting pot. And when I moved out to Colorado, I kid you not, like it's called. I moved to a place called Fort Collins, which is about an hour
Okay.
north of Denver. If you're not familiar, or anybody outside with us today, if you're not familiar, I kid you not, bro, 96% white people, and that freaked me out, bro. That freaked me out because the majority of the individuals and kids and whatnot that I grew up with were minorities.
Yeah.
I would be in
Yeah.
my group growing up, I would be considered the
Mm,
minority, I think, is the best way to
yeah.
put it, honestly. So like it was very strange, like
You're just like,
coming
what the fuck? We
yo,
switched.
I like in the beginning, it was like living in the twilight zone. It really was. Like the running joke for some people out there was like, if you saw somebody of color, it was like they're either on the football team at Colorado State University or the basketball team, or
Right.
they
See.
they at some point went there for athletics, and then just stayed there.
See, yeah, because it just doesn't happen there. Wow, that's a
It was
super
shocking.
homogenous.
It was
Wow.
very shocking, man. So that's why, I really appreciate, my wife as well. We appreciate that our daughter Jupiter is able to be a part of this, to get cultured in a way,
Mhm.
beyond what we can just be able to teach her. Because as I know, it's one thing to teach or have somebody learn about culture of any kind, but it's another thing to experience it, because that it just enhances it that much more. Like I've had,
Man,
I remember, before I knew that my daughter can like understand certain words coming out of a song. Like for example, the N word comes up. It's like, I know enough about it, but
mhm.
only to a point, right? Then I'm calling up my brother, yo, go talk to Uncle so and so. Would you explain to Jupiter really the foundation of the
Like, what's
differences?
going on here? Yeah.
Exactly. And because she's like, why is it okay, that somebody can call somebody this, but we can't say that. Well, you
Right.
know what? Again, I can only explain that to a certain extent, because then you gotta explain the hard
There's
R.
nuances that things are going.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So it's like,
But
hey man, go.
the fact that you're able to be self-aware of that situation, and then, well, one is being self-aware, and two is like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna do what I can to help this or to educate. But then I gotta pull in some help. You know what I mean? And that's a big thing from a parental standpoint. It doesn't matter what the topic is, right?
Yep.
Um, Asking an outside person to come in and help explain something to your child, that's something that most people will try to avoid, right? They get offended. They want nothing to do with that, right? So that's come on, that's a major step. That's a big thing. You know what I mean? Because that's, in a lot of ways, that is the physical action of the phrase or the cliche, it takes a village.
Yeah.
And a lot of people like to use that, but then they like to use it as a phrasing, as a wording, as their mantra. But when it's time for it to really happen, it's like, oh, don't talk to me. Nah, I can't handle it. I'm busy. It's like, okay. So thank you. I appreciate that.
No, no, most definitely, man. I appreciate it because I like to live by a saying. I'm not one of the smartest people in the world, but I'm one of the most intelligent because I know how to utilize the resources around me. And I think if people did that as a whole, honestly, the world would be a lot better place. That coupled with communication, right? Um, like, why can't we just have a conversation, man? And sticking with the culture of Kansas City, because there's some opportunity and some ways to go. One thing that I've definitely heard, and I'm very curious to get your point of view from somebody who's lived here for long enough to get their point of view, but also with the industry that you're in with respect to podcasting, being a part of the Mecca and entertainment as a whole. Any
Mm.
insights that you could share as what's up with people just not giving love to each other in Kansas City from the aspect of, whether you want to call it the music, the art as a whole? Because I want to be clear in kind of like the context of how I'm asking this. I know people are
Mhm.
giving people love out there. Let's not get that shit twisted. But it
Right.
seems like if you're an outsider coming in, at least
Mhm.
that's the perception that I got coming in. Man, doesn't there is no other artist in Kansas City that likes another artist or wants to give some love or some big ups. You know what I mean? So I'm just curious what your insights are on that.
So you're right. There are people that show love, and there's a lot of people. There's a lot of people that are big on building community and working within their community, collaborating and networking. In my time, again, I've been interviewing, podcasting for going on 4 years now. So that is a common theme that I've caught on to, is that a lot of people say, hey, we need to work together, we need to network, we need to have community. And then on the back end, as much as I do see people supporting each other, I don't see it, to your point, right? um there is this, what I call it is KC politics. And there is a certain strong element to it within the music, entertainment, in some degrees even podcasting segments or industries, right? What it On the high end, I'm gonna kick in my conspiracy militant angle and say it's capitalism. On the low end, if I really just like kind of bring it back down, what it is that things are heating up. Attention is coming to KC, and kind of we mentioned off camera that the middle class has been crushed. The business class is being crushed. The entrepreneurial sense and spirit, as much as people want to get to it and get the money and get the bag, it has a cost. And
Mm-hmm.
so we're getting the spotlight, and those that have an opportunity and access to that spotlight want to make sure that they maximize their dollars, because everyone's trying to live their dreams, and they're trying to escape the corporate world, right? And so there's that just I tension is natural,
Yep.
competition is
Yep.
natural, but in some cases when you put it to a sense of, i'm not just I'm not just living my dream, but I'm fighting for my survival too, it puts an extra layer on there, right? So what happens, in my opinion, is that, and it's a long way of saying, these artists and these opportunities come up, they want to make sure that it hits home really, really well, and then they don't want to fuck up their image, they don't want to fuck up their opportunity, they don't want to, I don't know, disappoint their brand or their fans, and they
Yep.
also don't want to give another artist an opportunity to snake them, right? Because everyone has an angle, and it's just unfortunate that as much as there's artists that want to work with each other, they want to build community, they want to develop these networks, they are still running into janky promoters, or shitty record executives, you know what I mean? Or bum ass I assume we can curse here, I'm sorry,
Yes.
bum
No.
engineers,
Yes. You can.
you
Yes, you
know?
can.
So
Shit.
there's
Fuck. Bitch. Whatever you want to say, bro.
you know what I mean? So I think what happens people want to show love, but they have to be selective to when they show love because they're unsure if they're going to get burnt or
Mhm.
if that artist is even going to reciprocate. You know what I mean? Like it's a weird mix of confusion, entitlement, vulnerability. You know what I mean? They've been burned, so they're insecure. So they're like, no, I'm not. If I go and flash that dude, he don't even repost me. So why do I give a damn about showing him love? Or, if that dude or that chick, they a prima donna or he's a diva. So if I put him on the bill for my show, I'm gonna work extra hard to get this going, and he's just gonna walk in and do nothing, right? Like, there's that mentality, and then there's the other angle because KC has street politics as well, and I'm not well versed in it. I'm not gonna sit
Mhm.
and say like, oh, I'm not in the streets like that, but I do know um, that there's another layer of tension going on there too. And so this artist isn't going to show love to this artist because that aligns over here differently, or this artist isn't going to even remotely talk about a show because they don't want to let other folks know that, hey, I'll pull up to your show. You know what I mean? There's the the street element and the entertainment element have intertwined so much that folks don't really know what to do. You know what I mean? So at this point, they're just like, fuck it. I'm only showing love to the folks that I know are gonna show love back to me. You know what I mean? So I know that's a really convoluted answer. The answer really for me is that KC politics are, oh man, it's complicated, it's messy, and it has a very dangerous hint of violence
Mhm.
because of the street element that's always intertwined in it. And I don't think it's different than any other city.
Correct.
But I think just for us being here, being transplants, and being able to see the opportunity, it hits home a little bit more. Like, damn, why are
Yeah.
we doing this? You know what I
Yep.
mean? So that's where it comes from, and that's what it is. I don't begrudge any artist that doesn't show love. I big up every artist that does show love because you don't have to. And so there's a lot of artists that go out of their way to make sure that, hey, check this person out. Make sure you go, there's artists that will drive multiple you know, hours to go and see shows around here. So um there's a lot of effort and love in the community, but there's also a lot of there's a lot of insecurity. And the insecurity comes from the tension of like, man, I gotta make it. I'm trying to make it. I'm tired of this shit. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And on top of that, you're dealing with the survival mode that we all naturally have. So that's why. That's
No,
my
no,
answer.
no. I think that's a spot on answer as well, right? Especially once you just include upbringings in general and the politics that come along with everything. It makes it hard because yes, I don't. Some people are like, "Hey, man, I see the power of collaborating," and most people think that a collaboration has to be like on a song or doing a conversation like this, for example. And the collaboration could just be as simple as showing some love, but I very much get what you're saying there from the standpoint of just being like, yo, I just got to stay in my own lane, and if someone's in that lane with me, cool. If not, I can't go outside that lane.
Right.
So,
It's dangerous out there. You know what I
yo,
mean? From
ain't that
multiple layers, right? Not even just
yes,
physically, but the physical danger isn't the concern as much as the financial. And as artists, as
yeah.
creatives, whether we're business people or entrepreneurs, there's still a sensitivity out there that you can get burnt and you're like, man, fuck this. I don't even want to do this shit no more. You know what I mean? That happens. So they
Well,
just,
especially if that's happened to you before as an individual, shit. I mean, that trust level that you were kind of talking about earlier in that answer. Um, if you've been burned that once, twice, man, it's going to be very. It's like any relationship, but I don't care if it's a relationship that a boyfriend, girlfriend, wife, husband, boss, employee, coworker, yada yada yada. Those are relationships as well. And if you've been
right.
burned enough in a relationship, then yeah, you're going to naturally, to your point, you're going to put your guard up, and it's going to be very hard to be trusting of someone, especially in the whole of the entertainment industry as it is. It's a really
Yes.
shady fucking business as it is. So it's
Just off
tough.
rip. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Just off rip.
I mean, it's wild. I mean, just thinking about, I mean, the culture of hip hop that we were talking about at the beginning, right? You look back, even executives today, let alone in the late 80s, early 90s, when they were like, yo, if you're not coming out with, unless it's coming out with like gangster rap, that's literally like glorifying, you know, gun violence and drug violence. Like, we're not going to sell it. So, as an artist, kind of to your point that you were just saying, if you're trying to get out of certain situations, well, you got to kind of do at that point, especially if you're already signed, you got to do what the boss tells you to do because you're locked up in a contract as it is, anyways, right? And it's crazy
Right.
because I was blessed enough to be on a Zoom call with D1, the rapper, earlier in the week,
Oh
and
wow. Yeah, yeah. Wow.
it
Right.
was it
Wow.
was it was me and like 80 other rappers, and basically the whole format of that is to take hip hop back to what hip
Okay.
hop started as, right? And he made a
Right.
very good point and that's having this conversation is what made me think of it. He's like, do you think that there's executives from all these record labels sitting here on a Wednesday night at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock or whatever it was, scheming on XYZ? He's like, nah, man. He's like, he was talking about the 3.5% rule, right? Which is basically, if
Mhm.
you're not familiar with it, 3.5% of a certain, whether you want to call it population or group or whatever, as long as you have enough, minimum 3.5%, and you stick to your, stand on your 10 toes and push that
Mhm.
message forward, that you can make that difference, right? And he's like, do you think
Right.
record executives are, in this hip hop culture right now, are out here having these conversations? No, because they're just selling sex and they're selling the violence and the glorification of it, right?
Right.
Um,
No, right now their conversations, if they're having any conversations, is like, okay, how do we keep the numbers going? How do we move the numbers? So they don't care what the topic is. Well, there is, I feel, a very distinct focus and push on certain topics. And I think there's also a certain focus, disdain, or avoidance of certain topics or type of topics. You know what I
mm-hmm,
mean? But there's definitely no conversations to say, hey, how do we realign or readjust this direction that things are going, right? Like, you guys know, like, hey, you guys know that all of this drill music that we're making money off of is helping the fucking gun violence happen in Chicago and other cities, right? Like, something we can do about it? No, no, they're not having that conversation. You're right. You're absolutely right. And so I'm gonna be honest. For me, I agree with what D1 is doing and saying. I would take it one step further. We shouldn't expect them to have that conversation.
mm-hmm,
To go back to something I've already said, capitalism.
yep,
Nothing about the system inherently says do the right thing. This is why I have issues with free market conversations or free market concepts, because if we allow the business model, which derives from capitalism, nothing good will come from it in the long term. If that's truly the focus, right? If we look, and I say this to bring it back to hip hop, because everyone loves the 90s. That's the golden era of hip hop, the backpack era, right? The
mm-hmm,
problem that also happened in the 90s, and I believe Nas said this in one of his lines, is we sold our soul in that era as well. The same time that the corporate money was coming in, we were locking in on an image that was not much different than selling dope on the corner. And as often as we were rapping and saying, "Hey, don't do this while I'm doing this," and I'm telling you not to do this, so we were still doing it, right? And my back to D1, I don't necessarily have a problem with him, but my point is, why do we even need the corporations to speak for us? That's been our problem from the start. Hip hop
mm-hmm,
started in the community. It started from the street. The street should be talking for us. The break dancers, the cardboard kids, the b-boys, the Zulu Nation cats, all of that came from being broke, powerless, and voiceless. And that was that's where the words were coming from, right?
mm-hmm,
So what D1 is doing is truly hip hop. That's what we should be doing. Again, this is not an example of doing hip hop. This is an example of being active in the culture of hip hop and doing the knowledge, doing the community work that aligns with the culture. Um, I think what's really, really important is that we you have the guns down, right? And you have the D1 conversations, and we have um the meccas and the podcasts. I think even the South by Southwest and all these festive Rock the Bells, these are all awesome, actionable opportunities for us to show how the community could come together. But they're also opportunities where we could find ways to, at some point, we have to scale back the need for opulence, the need for excellence, the need for luxury. You know what I mean? When I say
Yep.
excellence, I'm not talking about doing it right and doing it well. I'm talking about it's got to have the pop and the sheen. Man, fuck all of that.
Which is something from the soul. Like,
Just do it. You know what I mean? The things that, like, rock and roll is as glossy and flashy as it is, country as clean and prissy as it's presented, still has a grit element to it that they really, really make sure you know, right?
mm-hmm.
My point is, why can't we get back to that? There are a shit ton of now they're having trouble because of the corporate angles that are going on, but there are a shit ton of small, independent, local businesses and entities that have been able to service the country music scene, the alt music scene, the EDM scenes, the rock and roll scenes, right? Here in KC, the Knuckleheads and I'm picking on that one, the Rhino, probably Record Bar is a great one. They're on 20 years anniversary. Shout out to them. So there are opportunities for the culture, for the artists, whether it be hip hop specifically or KC culture as a whole, to take back some sovereignty from what's going on, because that's where the shit's coming from. No, there's no fucking label execs talking about this. No, there's no corporate level promoter saying, okay, how do we bring positive, safe shows that still entertain the youth? Nobody's doing that. Nobody's even attempting to say, okay, do we not see that the youth are getting more and more hyper focused on this particular topic? Is this okay? Is this good? How do we redirect? How do we enter a different subject matter, right? How do we dilute this one a little bit so we can bring this in? Um, all of that sounds like social engineering, but at the end of the day, that's kind of what it is anyway, right? That's what we've been on, right?
Yep.
So, that's that. Ultimately, my thing is, who gives a fuck what the executives are talking about? Because we can't trust them. Hip Hop Rule 4080. Record label executives are shady. It's not just the label execs, it's all of them. And I'm not saying they're bad people, but damn it, they're not doing inherently good things. So why do we need them? That's me.
So true, and I think that's a beautiful thing with the push of more people kind of leaning towards independency, right? Because one thing I miss, you brought up the '90s era, right? And I was talking to you earlier about doing my 100 track challenge, which I literally called the golden era 100 track salute, right? Like I
Right.
want to take it back to hip hop, like literally. I'm not doing any production. I'm taking the fucking beat. I'm taking the lyrics from start to finish. I'm not doing 4 bars, 8 bars to make sure it all. No, I got a fucking beat. I got my lyrics. Let's
Just
fucking
rap.
go. Right?
Right.
Because that's what I know hip hop to be. That's what it was when it started on Sedgwick Ave in the Bronx and grew from there. That's exactly what it is. Right? And one thing that I miss the most about that era, if you were hearing a new artist for the first time, you might have not known who they were. You might have not necessarily known in the moment what the name of if they were an independent artist or a group, but you had a really good idea of what region they were from,
Yep. Yep. Yep.
right?
Yep.
I really can't think of really feeling that after maybe, I don't know, give or take 2005, maybe,
Yeah.
because I felt like, once we got into this influential era,
Mhm.
which I think we're kind of getting out of to an extent with the independent
Yes.
movement, right?
Yes. Yes.
Um, that's something that's been missing, right? And I feel like I'm curious to see what your thoughts are in talking about this independent movement, getting back to more regional sound. When you see people like a D1 coming out, seeing somebody like a La Russell starting to make a name for themselves from the
Mhm.
independent standpoint, I feel that we are going, and I've kind of dubbed this for myself. I don't know if anybody said it out there or not, but the crystal clear era, the Clara. I'm calling it the Clara instead
Ooh,
of the
I
Clara,
like
the
that. I
combination of
like that.
crystal clear, right? Because I think after going through this bullshit in the last 15, 20 years of the influential era and everybody sounding the same, and oh, I got to go do what's trendy in order to make that bottom line from the culture vultures telling me that I got to go
Mhm.
make my numbers, right? What
There
are
it
your
is.
thoughts? What are your thoughts on the independency leading to which I really think that we are right now. I think we are living in the beginning of that Clara, that crystal clear era of who you are as an artist independently. What are your thoughts on that?
So I agree. I think I like Clara. That's a dope ass way to put it. Um, I think for the last 3 or 4 years, actually, I think since hip hop's 50th anniversary, we're on 52. Um, there has been, and in some ways, actually, I'll give this to Drake when he started with the Kiki song, right? And that it may have already been happening, but there was a strong introduction to nostalgia, right? And you have a young child, so you probably know the movie In and Out,
Oh
and
yeah.
on In and Out 2, nostalgia hits the door, and they're like, "No, we're not ready for you yet. Go back." So that no one said, "Hey, we're not ready for that yet," and so that sound started to creep back in, and the sound being the feeling of nostalgia. Bad Boy did it in the '90s for us. Bruno Mars does it now. The 2000s also had that nostalgia vibe. So once that started to creep in on a more en masse setting because of Drake, people actually started to drift back to like those olden times and those feels. And one of the biggest things, to your point, was back then be like, where are they from? Ooh, where's that? You knew there was a difference from where you were to where that sound was coming from, and so then you were drawn to it, right? The other thing is we got into this era of the corporate era where everything started to sound the same because it what sounded cool was driving analytics, and then we got trendy, and then we hit TikTok, right? So
Hmm.
it's gotten so washed that artists now, as the nostalgia is starting to hit, it's breaking on taking them back to the '90s, which has been the golden era. Backpack in your pocket. If I'm gonna show that I'm with hip hop, this is my benchmark badge, right? Like if you want to let people know you fuck with hip hop, you're like, oh yeah, MF Doom's my greatest rapper, right? Like no knock to that. I'm just saying that was the thing, right? And so that started to become trendy. And this is not a bad thing, but I think in its own way, I'm giving accolades to Drake for bringing traditional hip hop back because he made nostalgia powerful. Because people started looking back to the past, like, okay, how can I be different from what's going on now? They looked back to the '90s and they started recognizing that, oh, different flows were happening, different ways of approaching the song structure were happening, different sounds are being put on these tracks and dusty shit and you know what I mean? Like, so that is now starting to hit not critical mass, but tipping point of like, oh, there's a shift coming, right? The other thing is Nas and Hit Boy. Um, Older artists in the last 5 years have started dropping. Killer Mike has had a run for a very long time. Pete Rock has kept himself in the light for a very long time. So these older artists that have always been dope and also represent that energy from the '90s that we love, that we know, and that apparently everyone resonates with anyway. Um, they're still doing their thing, and they're also reintroducing that traditional sound. And so like I was just at an event last night doing some live interviews. Um, Shout out to One Entity. They have a Synergy One mic, and I ran into a group of artists, Chrome Club. They're a collective of artists, but Slim Santana, Saber in Space, and a dude Skies. And one of the things they mentioned was, and they do really what would be considered avant-garde or alternative, like trap hip hop, right? But they were also like, hey, hold on, I'm actually going back and I want to work on doing traditional rap. I want to rap. And I'm like, wait, and that was the thing that caught me was these, I want to rap. I was like, wait, don't you rap now? Like, yeah, but I want to rap. Oh, okay. Because a year ago, nobody wanted to be a rapper. No one wanted to be an MC. Some folks didn't even know what an MC was. They just wanted to
Mm-hmm.
be artists, right? So the long story short is, I think it's a dope thing that we're getting back to that bar style, that traditional style. And it doesn't have to be that style. It's just we're getting back to being distinctive and original to who we are, right? And it seems like what feels most natural for us as a whole is some of that traditional stuff, right? There's some soulful, there's a lot of auto tune, there's a lot of different sounds and flows going on, but just rapping and talking about your experience seems to be where people are headed.
The
I want to shout
authenticity.
out.
Go for it.
au- no, well, authenticity is a great word, and with that, I want to shout out to my man, Rich Notch and Tall Genius from my Commission Brothers. Um, Back to the Lab, Dame, Big Dame De Niro. But cats like them have also, for the last couple of years, also introduced adult contemporary hip hop. So, and this is something that's going to sound crazy, but the elders have come back into the game and shown that there's another way to do this. Doesn't have You don't have to do it like us, but you can do something else. And I think it's inspiring those that are seeing it now, that are looking for something else or a way to stand out and be different. Like, oh, I can be authentic to the hip hop that I really like, and I don't have to do this shit. And you don't have to be like, oh, I'm fucking tired. I'm so good at rapping that it's easy. I don't have to do that. No, you can actually show that you rap really well and
Yep.
you're good at it, and you want to put some fucking effort. So yeah, I like it. I agree with it, and those are my long-winded thoughts.
No, they're very much welcome. They're very much embraced because like even that leads me to my next thought, like live performing, right? For the culture right now. You talk about it, you mentioned with all the OGs, right? All the elders coming back into the game versus this influential era mixed bag of whatever you want to call them. Um, you got people's concerts getting sold out as the elders. I mean, they're smart about how they do it as well. But then you have these new wave of individuals. They're getting their shows shut down because there's not enough ticket sales, right?
Yeah,
Because I always talk about there's a difference between a recording artist and a performing artist. Two completely different things, people. Two completely different things. Anybody could go in and be produced or produce something. Again, like we talked about it earlier. You take two bars, okay, put them together. Let's take the next two bars, put them together, and then you take this machine and you make it sound nice with auto tune and this, that, the other thing. So again, people, listen. If you don't learn anything today, you're already learning a lot. But please understand, if you're not learning anything at all today, please learn this. There's a major difference between a recording artist and a performing artist, and I think that's going down in live shows and ticket sales because you see somebody. You mentioned Tech earlier. Tech's going out and still selling out shows. You got Richie Rich out in the Bay, going out and doing his thing. Spice One is still out here touring. He's going to be here a week from today, as a matter of fact. Spice One's going to be here in town. So, what are your thoughts on the recording artist versus the performing artist in general,
ooh.
and how the OGs and elders of this shit could go out and sell shows out versus the new age people who are getting their shows canceled because they're not hitting enough ticket sales?
So, oh man, okay, that is a
I know I
great,
threw a
great.
lot at I threw a
Yeah,
lot at
no,
you.
it's not a lot. It's just great. They're good questions, a good setup. It's very, very fucking layered. So there, I want to start off by saying, a recording artist versus a performing artist is night and day, two different things. It doesn't matter what fucking genre it is. If we focus on just hip hop, it's really a matter of effort. You should be the same. There's no reason for you not to be. If you are a recording artist, you should be. As a matter of fact, you have to be a performing artist. And the main reason why is because your legends are in town and they're outselling you. Your legends have already got a baked in track record and catalog and fan base and community. They have a heightened awareness and brand because of who they are, because they're legends, and because of social media, because of all of that, they have a machine that's pumping right behind them. So everyone complains about an industry plant, but in reality, what it is that person has the connections to get access to the machine to actually
Mm-hmm.
get people in the seats. If you were really an artist, take the recording, take the performing off. If you're an artist, then you are able to perform and function in all aspects of your chosen medium, whether you're in the studio or on the stage. And so if you want to be referred to as I'm not an MC, I'm not a rapper, I'm an artist, okay? Then be an artist. That doesn't mean that you cannot fucking do the job when it's time to. Maybe you're nervous. Maybe Van Gogh couldn't paint on spot, but I promise you, if you put him in a room with people and gave him what he needed, he could paint on spot, right? And eventually he would be good at doing it in a performance setting. Doesn't change the fact that he's a fucking artist. So when it really, there is no difference, and I think the only difference is the ability to make an effort to learn your craft. If you are a recording artist and you're not a performing artist, then you're only half a fucking artist, in my opinion. I know that's crass, that's rough, but I don't
But it's
care.
facts
That's my
too. It's
opinion.
facts.
Yeah.
It's facts.
Um, the other
And we got
part
to
to
get
that I'll
away.
say,
We got to get away real quick. I gotta say this from handing out fucking participation trophies. So
no,
you speak that
no,
truth, bro. You speak that
no.
fucking truth.
That's the participation trophies are absolutely true. SoundCloud, the internet, the ability to take your recording with you anywhere, the band lab recording shits. That's all great, but you know what? You cannot profess to love the '90s to be underground artist. You can't be rock and roll. You can't be alternative. You can't be punk rock. You can't be hip hop if you cannot go and command a crowd. If you don't know your fucking lyrics well enough to at least perform the damn song while the backing track is going, then you are wasting time. You are not fucking punk rock if you have a backing track going while you're also screaming at the top of your lungs. And you fucking suck if you have to scream at the top of your lungs because you don't know your fucking song. If you got to freestyle it, that's one thing. Fine,
Yep.
whatever. Give me a show. That's still a performance.
Correct.
But if you can't even fucking break a dance move or partially break a sweat because you haven't got your song down, then you're not an artist. You're half a fucking artist. Now, as aggressive as I am about that, I say that because we have legends that are still performing and needing to eat off of performances. There's an old saying, and I'm going to fuck it up, but you know it's a problem when your legends are still performing with your rookies, right? And we have hit that stage. We've been there for a minute. I've
Mhm.
said this before on my blunt talks, but our OGs are not only on nostalgia tours, right? Which it shouldn't be a competition, right? A new band should not be is not competing with a Leonard Skinner cover band, right?
Yep.
Paramore and Green Day and Korn are not competing with Asking Alexandria and Falling in Reverse. They have their own fucking markets. So there's no reason why X-Rated, Tech Nine, Ice Cube, um, Greg Nice, these guys should be able to perform and come to cities and do their thing without it affecting the younger cats. But what's happened is the sound, the effort, the demographic, the access to disposable income has dwindled so much that we're fighting for whatever's available, right? Same reason why cats aren't showing love to each other because they don't have the opportunity or the bandwidth to show love to something that could be the love they need to get. And
Yep.
so we don't have we people are having to choose between insulin and bread. That's the high level. The low level, super low level, people are having to choose between, am I going to go and see this 10-year-old, 10-decade-old veteran that I haven't seen and may not see for a while, or am I going to see this new cat? Am I going to see this guy that's been performing, I known to do a good show, or am I going to see this guy that's giving me a half-ass fucking performance? Of course I'm going to go here, right? And it's an easy fucking setup. So my opinion on all of this is, one, the bigger venues should make it a point to cater to the big people, the ones that are going to bring in the crowd, but they should also make it a point to cater to the local artists. Like right now, La Russell is coming. And I think La Russell is he brings that regional sound, he brings that independent hustle, which, by the way, KC having such a strong connection to the South and having such a strong connection to the Bay Area, we should understand and appreciate that independent hustle mindset, which we do. We try to emulate. Um, we need to get better at the support aspect, because the walk up city thing is one thing. When it gets to the point where someone like Future, who is or isn't a dope artist, can call in a sick day on his tour because he knows he's not going to get tickets in KC, yo, that's crazy, man. That's crazy. So, I just think the venues that have the power to bring in the big artists should be using their power to expose or to shed light on the local artists that deserve a chance, like the Royal Chiefs, the Shea Lyrics, the No Limit TCs. There's a lot of, I mean, and then that's just in the rap realm, right? But there's a
Yep.
ton of, you know, Jaslyn Epps is one that comes to mind. Jay Soul, Jazz Couch, and that's not that they're not getting opportunities, but if the larger venues made it a point to focus on the local artists, we could have that mix that we need. And if the local venues made it a point to show the local artists a little bit more love, give them more opportunities, and not allow the promoters to prey on the artists. You know what I mean? There's a lot of janky promoters that have had some names pop up recently, and what I find really really shitty about the situations is that there are venues that are involved that you don't necessarily have to know it's happening, but you know it's happening, and you may not necessarily be allowing it to happen, but you encourage it to happen. You know what I
Yep.
mean? And so that's my problem. That's my issue with a lot of different things, and even studios where, you know, you know that this artist is getting taken advantage of, or you know that you're creating a situation that there's some shady business going on, and you still walk it down because you got to make that money. Like, come on, man. And
At what
and that goes
cost? At what cost? Yeah,
that,
integrity, like legacy, right? Legacy. Like at the
well,
end of the
just
day,
sustainability it just integrity in your soul, but also the sustainability of the fact that if you know that all the elements around you are going to burn you, eventually as an artist, you stop giving a fuck. And if the quality of local artists goes down because they don't care, or because they don't think people care, and because then everyone wants to get the fuck out of here, only to go out there and learn that they're going to get burnt just the same.
yep.
How does this? How? What do we do in what do we do in a decade from now? Right? Because Snoop Dogg is going to be 70 years old, so you can't rely on these old artists, and
Hmm.
you've burnt the young artists. So who keeps the fire going? Sorry to cut you off, but I needed to
No,
get
no,
that
no.
part out.
You're plenty good. And I think that was a very good point. You cut me off anytime you want, bro. It's your show today. I'm just here to help have the conversation and facilitate that shit, bro. So it's all good, bro. I'm just a fly on the wall here, dog. Just having a conversation. That's it. Speaking of promoting and underground and venues, we definitely got to talk about the Mecca. Let the
Mm.
people know what is going on with the Mecca, because you got a show coming up next Saturday, next Friday or Saturday, that's whatever the 29th is. Um,
Yes, yes. Next
which I
next Friday.
which I think I got to pop out for, because I've been seeing it, but now I got to know a little more about it. So I think I might have to be popping outside literally next Friday. So, but with that said, let's go ahead and talk about the Mecca. Where did the idea come from that? For that, excuse me, how long you've been doing it? Let the people know what's going on with the Mecca, and just the premise overall of it here in Kansas City.
Man, yeah, I appreciate I really appreciate the opportunity to talk about the Mecca. It's a great setup and segue, because all the other things we talked about, I think for me, I feel, and I know that the Mecca for me is the answer, the solution, the resolution to what a lot of us need in the city. I know that's kind of a, high like, oh my God, he thinks he's God. No, I just think it's a really fucking dope idea. I believe in it that much. It probably consumes me. But the Mecca itself, where it started from was I was at Emerald Dreams Lab, interning as a podcaster, learning about videography and stuff like that, and just like how to put on a podcast, right? Because beforehand I was just shooting off my phone, literally
Yep.
just IG live off the fucking phone, right? And the opportunity was there. One entity was throwing a showcase, and I saw that, and I was like, "Oh shit, there's people, there's things going on." So I went to my producer. I was like, "Hey, how do I do that?" And he's like, "Bring me an event." All right, cool. I immediately was like, "Okay, what can I do to make this different, and what can I do to not only like I wanted to make it a way that the podcast gained new guests." And the guests got an opportunity to like really build something. And the first thing that came to mind is like, well, if I was performing, I'd want to get paid. How do I get paid? The other show was doing zero, like donation based. Okay, so they're trying to support the community. So I like that. I want to fuck with the community. Cool. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna make it to where the artist has to have done an interview with the podcast. Once you've done that, you can then qualify to perform. What I'm going to do is I'm going to initially do a low cost entry, like donation based. But because of the situation and the setup I had, it was very, very easy for me to like, this is an easy cost to like couple hours, had a DJ built in that was free. So everything was DIY. Everything was like, we're just kind of barter system favoring this shit, right? So
Yep.
whatever money made, I had already initially said, okay, I'm going to make sure that the artist gets paid. So my original agreement was a percentage of like this percent goes to the house so that the venue gets paid. This percent goes to the artist so that the artist gets paid. And then I'll take a little bit on the back end so that I can like build a operation, right? I'm all about
Absolutely.
operating
It's got
funds.
to be sustainable. It's got to be
Right. And
sustainable.
sustainability was always the thing. And so that was really the key was normally what I've seen is artists have to go all out of their way to sell tickets to get onto a show so that the venue gets the highest share of the money. The promoter then gets the second level share of the money, and the artist gets nothing. So the point of the Mecca was actually to reverse that and still be respectful so that because we're in capitalism, the venue still has to get paid. Cool.
Yep.
We'll give you a chunk, but the larger chunk needs to go to the artist. The best way to do that was to spread it out amongst everybody because what's a show if I can only pay two artists? But if we can spread it around and I can reasonably pay 5 to 6 artists, that's better than nothing. So I mean that ultimately that is the whole point. And from there it was like, okay, after 2 shows, this is getting bigger. This is getting better. I like this. I'm learning. I didn't know anything about doing a show other than what I knew from my own personal experience as an artist, putting my own shows together. So I've always had the independent mind state, always had the DIY perspective of like, okay, if you're telling me no because you can't or I can't afford it, then how can I make this happen so that money's not necessary? So everything I knew coming up was training for this.
Yep.
Um, and because I was an artist and because I think it's important that people get paid, because I think and know and feel that Kansas City is the new Mecca, that we're getting the spotlight. And from a hip hop perspective, the sounds that are coming out of KC have been and will again start affecting the rest of the culture. I wanted to make sure that whatever I did was going to put a spotlight on it. You know what I mean? Um, so one of the biggest tenets about the Mecca is that I want the artist to be able to build a fan base or a community from the event that they can then come back regularly to, right? Like um, Uncle Jam's Army in LA or something as massive or as impactful as the Tunnel in New York. I
Yep.
want something like that where you're going to come in and you're going to cut your teeth and you're going to get known. And the people that come there are coming there to get some raw, underground, dope ass professional developing talent. And it doesn't have to be hip hop every time, but you feel it and you can sense it that has a hip hop element. That's why it's called the Mecca, because it's an homage to the Mecca of hip hop. Because I think the center, the heartbeat, the pulse of who we are is right here in KC, and I want to make sure that I'm contributing to that. So that's really always been the point and the focus, is to ensure that the artists have a platform that can get them paid, that can get them um, the community and the fan base they need. I also make sure that there's a merch table available so they can sell their stuff. Like if you're a performing artist, you don't have to pay to vend. If you want to vend and bring in your own merch table and you're not performing, there's a small vendor fee, but
Yep.
it's not anything like, I'm not knocking you in the head with $150
Of
expecting
course,
you to
but there's a
sell.
little bit of a real estate cost. Again, the whole premise has to be sustainable, right?
And
For
that's
like you
all it
said,
is.
you, the venue, the artist, and that makes sense because it's a different if you're like, yo, $500, pull up a table versus, hey, man, if
Now,
I'm getting, I'm just using examples here, people, just so y'all know, right? $50 a table, 25 a spot, a table, whatever the case is. It has to work because if you can't make it sustainable, like anything else, it's only going to last for so long. And that's just a fact, right?
and
Like,
we've been at it for, we just passed year number 2. So we have been
yo,
doing, we're
that's
on
what's up.
Mecca 26 is coming up this Friday. As of this airing, the 29th, August 29th. So it started in a small space. Somebody said like, yo, this is like having a frat party in somebody's basement. I was like, that's the vibe I've always wanted to keep. Um, it's a speakeasy element. So, you can come in and bring your smoke, you can bring your drink. Where we're at now, you can't smoke inside, but you're free to smoke outside. You can roll up and do your thing, just don't light up, right?
Yep, yep,
So um the main, the whole vibe and the energy is about, again, a speakeasy community where you can come in and talk about what you need to talk about. If you're a local artist, you can pay to get in the door, and if I have time, I have like 5 or 6 surprise slots available that you don't necessarily have to be on the bill, but you can still get an access to perform. Do you get paid at the end of the night? No, but you do this enough times, you can now work yourself into the network and you can get on that main bill. You know what I mean? So one of the things, being transparent, that I struggle with is the idea of pay to play. I don't think artists should have to pay to play. I get why it happens. I don't agree with it. And so I will never tell artists, hey, you have to pay me $50 to perform at the Mecca. What I will say though, in order for me to make this sustainable, in order for you to help fund the Mecca, you can pay me for an interview. You know what I mean? I have IG Live available. I have in studio available. I can, in person, I can pull up on you. You know, so paying for that interview, which by the way is not much different than you paying to get a video shot,
yep,
or paying to buy. Because as much as we want to say you're a clothing ambassador, you bought those clothes, you bought those jeans, you bought that hat, right? So go ahead and pay for this interview so that I can then call you a micro sponsor of the Mecca. You know what I mean? That doesn't mean you paid to play. That means that you paid to support a community that is allowing you to play. You
yes,
know what I mean? And giving you a space that you can then, that investment in sprinkle some salt gives you access to the Mecca, but it also gives you access to a community that will always find you, gives you access to a vending table that you can always sell at and create revenue for yourself, right? Um, One of the other things that I do is, artists that perform, main build artists, it's a requirement. You have to do at least one promo shoot with me. And if I get enough people together in a room, we shoot a skit. So now you've got content, you've got resume, you've got acting chops, you've got branding and ambassadorship opportunities that you can leverage, right? So I think, as a grand scheme of things, involving yourself with the Mecca, whether you're an artist or a business, is a powerful thing to do, because you're on the bottom floor of a grassroots movement that's only going up, but it's also going out. We're about sustainability and about reach and about encompassing the whole thing. So I don't need to like, I'm not worried about the margin or like, oh my God, we got to make X amount of dollars. I just need to make sure the venue gets paid, the DJ gets paid, the artist get paid. That's cool. You know what I mean? I'll figure out the rest. We can hustle up the rest next month.
Yep.
You know, and we've been able to do it for 2 years, so we're good. We're solid. We here, man. We're not going nowhere.
That's huge. And what you said there sparks this to me, right? Like a lot of people, kind of from what we've just been talking about, especially becoming up and coming artists in general, right? Like everybody just thinks, listen, even if you're dope, let me put it this way. We are gonna never hear from some of the dopest fucking lyricists, rappers, singers that have ever been out here, because these are the people who just think because they're so good that things should just happen for them, right? Which means they are neglecting the business side of it, right? And you are giving individuals the opportunity, bro. Literally, what you just said right there, what you could get out of the Mecca, somebody can start rapping today. I can show up to the Mecca next week, and I can basically, from what you said about the skits, the interviews, a performance opportunity, I could have an EPK done in a motherfucking weekend. In a motherfucking weekend. Come on now. Like the business aspect of it, that's you're talking about branding, talking about wanting to build something. I think that's a big piece that even
Mhm.
artists that have been doing this for, in some cases, a very long time don't get that piece of it. It's a business, people. When you talk about the entertainment industry, when you talk about the music industry, guess what industry means? Industry means commerce. Commerce means capitalism. Commerce and capitalism mean business. Like, what, people, go educate yourself, please, before you do anything entrepreneurship wise, entertainment wise. You are a brand, you are a business. As soon as you pick up that mic and you call yourself a whatever, you just branded yourself, you just labeled yourself. You've got to push that label. It's not going to happen all by itself,
Love it.
bro. And you just offered a beautiful community to people in this area, and you've been doing so for 2 years, bro. Literally, hats off to you and the whole fucking team doing that, bro. Because you don't see a lot of people out here doing that. You see a lot more people doing what we talked about earlier in this conversation, where it's just all about me, 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 and the C word, community. Come on.
Yeah. No, I'm big on community. It's important to me. It's necessary. What I probably say it every time that we do a Mecca. It's important that I let people know that attention is coming here. It's already here. And so why not start building your community now? Why not start
Yes.
engaging your fan base now? What's really, really important is that with the focus that is here and that is on its way comes paperwork and opportunities. And you won't get the chance to sit at the table or even have proper, even if you get to the table, maybe you have a manager, maybe you have someone that gets you there. They're not going to talk to you in the same language. They're not going to give you the same paperwork. They're not even going to give you the same options to negotiate if you walk up as just John Q artist. You have to have an LLC behind you. You have to have a business entity in front of you, actually, right? Like, or however you want to position it. But if you go to that table not as a business entity, then you're just a talent in their stable. It's no different than a 9 to 5 walking in to get a job interview, and they're going to treat you as such. So that's why this is important to me. The other angle for me, we're beyond the streaming era. It was never meant to be, shouldn't have ever been, and it's lasted way longer than it should have. When you get to a point that Congress or we have to have policy made to pay us $1
Mm-hmm.
per stream, and you're now fighting with artificial streams, it's done. So the aspect of the live performance, again, going back to legends versus rookies or up and comers, the live performance is your bread and butter. We've known that is your angle for at least 15 years. When they started entering or offering 360 deals was when everyone should have realized that, oh shit, that's where the money's at, right?
Mm-hmm.
So performing and getting paid for performance. Not only is that where the money's at, but that's where you guys get to brag, right? You get to say, hey, I got paid to do a show. You also have an opportunity to do merch. You also have an opportunity to book more shows and more brand and more visuals, right? From all of these things. If you're not setting yourself up to do that, then someone else is going to do it. Someone else is going to get that look, and you're just going to be sitting there waiting like, hey, I'm here. No, go do that shit yourself. Go and press up your fucking shirts. Don't wait for the label to give you a logo, graphic designer. Go find everyone's trying to network and collaborate. There's 100 different. We all know a graphic designer in the damn comment section, right? I bet you know
Yep.
one in real life too. So go get you some merch and sell that shit. We're all wearing everyone else's fucking logo, LVs and the Gucci's and the Chanel's. Well, why isn't your logo on? If anyone notices me for real, they might be like, "Oh, Bump ain't got no fashion sense." That's cool. I don't care. One thing I do got is consistency, and you will almost never see me out and about without either a KC hat on or a local brand on or one of my own fucking brands on. If it's not Thrax pastry, sprinkle some salt, or EMTs, it's probably not on me. You know what I mean? And that's because I am going to brand my shit. Why? Why am I gonna be wearing someone else's shit that they're getting money off of when I could be
Yep.
getting money for that, right? Everyone says there's money on the floor. Great. You're leaving money on the table every time you walk out the house as an artist and you're not doing something to rep your shit. You're leaving money on the table. It's stupid. And these artists, this is a bit of a rant. These artists care so
All
much
good.
about their brands that they'll curate their pages and their Facebooks and their YouTubes, and they won't go to this show or they won't do that unless they're doing this. Okay, so if it's so important for you to look good and be seen well, then why are you not making that also like part of your business model? Why are you not okay? You see this look that I'm cultivating? Buy this here, right? But instead, you're being mysterious and unique for another fucking brand. That doesn't make sense to me. It's never made sense to me, and I won't allow it in my perspective ever. I came up on the E40s, on the Two Shorts, on the Masterpiece, the UGKs, Rap a Lot records. So nothing about my DNA would allow me to push another brand when I have my own shit that I could be getting paid for. Right? The game is to be sold, not
Not
told.
told,
You know
bro.
what I mean? Like, the
Yes.
fuck?
It's so true. Unless you're literally getting paid literally getting paid for that shit. Otherwise, no, you got to create that own lane. There's a difference and you got to be willing as well. I'll even take it one step further. You got to be willing. I mean, like you said, the Mecca's been here for 2 years now. That's the general rule of thumb for the success of a business, of a brand to be successful, right? So
Right.
kudos to you to being able to make it there. So people, again, it goes back to what I said earlier. This is not Hollywood. You can't just build the field of fucking dreams and shit's gonna happen. You've got to be willing to go to work. You've got to be willing to push that shit. You've got to be
Yes.
willing to be in it for the long haul, because all these viral moments that you always hear of, no, listen, those are not viral moments. Those are people that have been doing this shit for long enough that just happened to either catch a wave or a bit of luck, and then
Right.
that happened. Nobody just is going to wake up today, go and create something, put it on the internet today, and it's going to get 3 million views.
No.
Not
No.
going to happen. That's fantasy land, people. Fantasy land is what that is. So
You got to
that's
plug away.
where, yes, you have to. And if you do that long enough, you will catch the break. I promise you will catch the break. But the other piece of that, you said it, Bump. You also, I'm loving the C words that you're dropping today. Consistency. Listen,
Yep.
people, you have to be consistently consistent.
Yes.
That's just a fact. You can't just put something out today and then come back to us 2 months later. No, 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 no. Especially, if you're talking about the branding of the marketing side of it on social media, man, you got to gain favor with the algorithm. So you have to be out there. I mean, Russell said it himself one time when he first started out, and he still to an extent does it today. He's like, yo, He's like, yeah, I could post something of myself once a day. He's like, but if I post myself 5 times a day, that means people are going to go from seeing me 365 times a year to whatever the math is there, 1,800 and change per year.
Right. Exactly. Your numbers
Men,
go up.
and Jay-Z said it best: men lie, women lie, numbers don't. Look at what the numbers tell you. Like, come on, people. Like, literally, it's out there for you. But you got to open up your eyes. You got to open up your ears. You've got to be aware that you don't know everything out here in the world. There's so much knowledge always to be learned, and you're playing yourself if you're gonna out here thinking that you know everything that there is to know out here, especially if
You
you're
don't have
brand
to
new to
look
the
like
shit.
you don't have to look like you know everything either. You know what I mean? And this is something that I tell artists all the time. I tell if they look at how businesses work, a lot of businesses that do well eventually start telling you the story of how they got here. Right? That's literally every major branded business icon has a story, a lore, a origin story, right? So why don't the artists do that more, right?
Yes.
Start telling the story. Stop asking, hey, what do you guys want next from me after you dropped the project 2 days ago? Hey, sorry for the wait, guys. New project out 2 days later. Hey, what do you want to hear from me next? I haven't even had a chance to listen to what you told me 3 projects ago
Yes.
because of the cycle of life. So why don't you remind me? You know what I mean? In the meantime, why don't you tell me the story of how you got here? What's happening in between? And I know there's something that is for me different is that the music used to be about either a past or a future, what you aspire to do or be or what you've been through. Now it's all about what you're doing right now. And we can't ever seem to tell people that we're doing bad right now. You know what I mean? We have to be like, oh, I'm shining, I'm doing this. Everyone's sleeping with everyone's girl, everyone's got the best fucking smoke. And like, really? Then this is my just kind of off the cuff, but my question is if everyone is hustling like this, where are all the transactions happening? Because I don't see a lot of motherfuckers hustling like that. Like if every where's all this money being made? Because you're smoking so much, you're drinking so much, you're partying so much, you're fucking so much. When are you hustling? If you're so good at it that someone else is doing it for you, then how come all of y'all are fucking sitting around? Somebody ain't working it, right?
Because it's all fake. It's all smoke and mirrors. It's a facade. That's exactly. And you know what? I want to shout out somebody on that note. I don't know if you follow Demiza, depending how you want to
Yep, the
pronounce it.
miser. Yep.
Bro, I don't know if you saw his post the other day, where he was talking about, basically where, once he lost his grandmother about a year and a half ago, I think it was, give or take, and him and his grandma were homies, man.
Mm,
Homies,
mm,
man. And
mm,
like,
mm.
he was very open and transparent, as you talked about. He's like, yo, I lost everything, because he had lost like some of the plaques. He had to like get rid of, he lost the house, he lost his plaques,
Yeah,
so on and so forth. And that's what's missing in the world today, because everybody wants to be so flashy. Everybody wants, but for what? Like, again, because you're right. Like, where does that origin story come from? If that's what it is, cool, but let us know, because there was some struggle that got there. You talk about all the Apples of the world and the Microsofts of the world that literally started out of their garage, just like our custom furniture company is. People want to know the authentic story and that lore, as you put it, of the origin story. Like,
right.
part of my origin story as an artist, and I love telling this, like, the first time I ever live performed was in a venue that had no running water.
Wow.
It
See,
reminded me. It reminded me of like the shelter in 8 Mile in a way,
right.
right? But at least the shelter had running water, and we knew it because we saw Eminem throw up and then flush that shit down the toilet. But this place literally had no running water. But you know what? I have such an appreciation for that opportunity, because I know I'm going to be able to look back one day and be like, yo, just like I'm telling you that conversation now, the
Right.
first place I ever performed at, this is what it was like.
And it makes you appreciate all the other
Yes.
performances. You know what I mean?
Yes. It's it's
So
it, it hits different. So yes, you're right, bro. The lore, the transparency, the authenticity. And I'm going to take it one step further from what we're talking about in the entertainment and the artistry that we are today, and life in general.
Mm.
Like, man, we are missing so much authenticity because society, I feel, for what it's worth, is just telling us that you just got to give people smoke and mirrors, and that's going to be enough to tell people buy this, buy this, buy this. And you know what's wrong with that, in my opinion? It's trendy, right? Don't follow the trends, man. You got to set the trends. You got to be the trend. You know, like La Russell is doing, for example. I mean, he said literally, he's like, I'm literally getting, he said it this way, I'm literally just out here getting paid to live the life of authenticity that I want to live.
And that's what you should be doing. And
Yes.
I think that's what most artists at their core, that's what they want. But they're so willing to fake it until you make it,
Mm-hmm.
feed the machine so that they get the winning ticket. And then it's like, oh, I'm gonna go, okay, go, and it doesn't work that way, right? There a lot of multiple artists, and in some cases, to be honest, I blame Jeezy. I'll blame a little bit of Jay-Z because, I'm not a rapper, I'm a hustler, right? Jeezy made it like Jay-Z made it clear that he was a hustler, but he
Mm-hmm.
didn't always make it clear how much he loved the culture, right, of hip hop, right? He was very obviously, I'm a good rapper, I'm dope lyricist, give me my
Yep.
accolades. But he sometimes it was like he kind of loved the hustle more than he loved the culture aspect or the prowess of being good, right? I know that's not true, but that's not how he presented it sometimes. Jeezy definitely was like, yo, I feel like a lot of artists after him really just kind of, hey man, I'm really good at this and I just want to get a check and get out. I'm just here to,
Yep.
here to get some money and I'm out. Well, I mean that again is not sustainable because we then end up in the microwave era. Shout out to my man Rich Notch and Natural Born Kings, right? Like that kind of music isn't is not intended to help their soul or yours. It's really just to help their wallet, which if the point of the transaction is only to take, we're not if we're both not intending to give a little bit and get, then eventually somebody's going to end up empty, and that's what's happened. The music has ended up soulless because everyone's taking and not giving, right? But they're also not living. So because at this point, which going back to the D1 executive conversation, right, so much of what most industries, not just hip hop, because if you look at the rock and roll and even country, right, a lot of the cultural pastimes, a dive bar, a rock bar, a saloon, it still promotes alcoholism. It still promotes bad behavior with detrimental long-term consequences, right?
Yep.
No one's having conversations to redirect that, to reroute that, right? They're just like, keep fucking going, right?
Yep.
So and so that's, I mean, really my point in that is, if that's where we are, then it's kind of expected that nobody is going to want to hear your song or want to go to your show because what you're telling is something that doesn't resonate with them. Because nobody's really living a party life. You know what I mean? You're not actually drinking fucking however many gallons of Ciroc or sipping how much lean, or you know what I mean? You're not really.
Mm-hmm.
And if you were, you would be hurting, right? Um, so it's not authentic, it's not realistic, it's not sustainable. And because the artists feel trapped in the trend of having to show off this element of life, this lifestyle, nobody nobody's gaining. You as a fan, you're not gaining, you're not feeling any good. You're mad. You know how long I've been mad at Lil Wayne for fucking all of these women around me? Like, bro, you've been fucking my girl for 30 plus years.
Mm-hmm.
I'm done with you, Wayne. I don't want to
Yep.
hear that shit no more.
Give us
Right?
something new. Give us something real. Give us something authentic. Like, come
That's
on,
why
man.
nobody cared about the Carter Six. Because how many
Mm-hmm.
times have they heard that fucking line? How many times can you tell us you love pussy, weed, and alcohol? Bro, we get it. We do too, right? But
Yep.
like, damn, come on, Um, so
There's
yeah,
got to be
I
some
think
kind of evolution. There's got to be some kind of evolution as an artist. Like, golly, like,
Well, I think we're actually headed towards a cultural evolution. I think like like I think I referenced them, but these artists, you know, Saber and Space, Slim Santana, they were saying like, yo, we're looking at traditional stuff again, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's some local arguments going on about who's a big five or top five this. So there's a whether I like lists or not, there's the competition element that is driving people to do things differently.
Yep.
Um, the lack of opportunities, the again, I'll say it, the janky promoters that are out there that are once again scamming and burning artists. The underground element, the black market never goes anywhere. It just recreates itself, right?
Mm-hmm.
Energy cannot be created, it's just transformed, right?
It just
So
adapts. Yep.
whatever is going on over here is going to cause these things to happen over here. And a lot of that necessity creates ingenuity. So the things that we're complaining about from a cultural aspect will cause or will have an evolution, a change, because the financial impact that we're dealing with from our culture is forcing these things to happen. Artists are going to have to be even more aggressive in their DIY, in their independence, in their hustles to make sure that they can survive in this market, right? So I think that that is going to cause artists to evolve in a positive way because you can't go any further negative than we are right now. I mean, you can, I'm sure, right? The universe will be like, hold my beer. But the truth is, at some point, it's going to revert back. And I think it's starting to happen. I see it in the conversations that I'm having with the artists. In our conversation now, there is a yearning for positivity. There's a yearning for rebel music. There's a yearning for the entrepreneurs and the businesses to be able to um, affect their community. Politics have always been part of our business world, and it's always been like, oh, we don't talk church and politics. And people are getting way more transparent, open of like, no, this is what the fuck I stand on, man. And
Yep.
this is how I make my money, and this is how I feel about it. We can mix them or we don't, but this is where I'm at. So, and I think those are part of the cultural evolutions that we're starting to see.
Now, I very much agree with you. I think it's very necessary as well, because I think that's really just it's gonna blast us off into a time that we haven't seen probably since the '90s, like we were talking about earlier. I really do.
Hopefully, we do it right though. Maybe we get the '90s again, but we can do it right this time.
Well,
You know,
I'm with you, and I think to that point as well, because I definitely want to talk about your podcast a little bit before we leave here today, for sure, for sure. But here's my hot take from today. Unless you're doing it the right way, kind of like you just said there, and treating the culture, excuse me, appropriately, um, which if you're unsure, people, of how to do that, then you know what, you might want to grab a resource of somebody who really understands that, so there's not cultural appropriation and you're not a culture vulture, directly or indirectly. Okay, directly or indirectly, because even though you don't mean it, well, sometimes shit just happens, and if you're just going to keep putting that same message out there, well, that's you shooting yourself in your own foot. Okay, so I'm curious to get your take on this. If you're somebody who is doing that, or somebody who is not following the principles of the hip hop culture, you are
Mhm.
nothing. You're not a hip hop artist. You are nothing more than just a rapper or someone who just can put words together. That's my hot take from our conversation today.
I agree. I would agree. You're not. You're a Post Malone for me. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like that. You're a parasite. You're an opportunist. Um, you know, you're a chameleon. I don't know. You don't belong here. Is how I would look at it. You know what I mean? So no, I hate that. I have a disdain for people who dip their toe into something just well enough for them to benefit and then leave, because again, that leaves the other folks less opportunity, that leaves them with a
Hmm.
bad taste in their mouths, and it leaves them jaded and burnt to outside collaborations, you know, to outside situations. So and yeah, it's kind of a form of gentrification, really, or you know,
Yeah.
like it's a cultural appropriation. Like, come on, man, come on, don't do that shit,
Yeah. Because
you know.
again, I think that's a great example of it, because when he came out, You saw him with the long cornrows, and now you see him in tight ass cowboy jeans. Like, bro, come on, what are we doing? What are we doing?
You went from Allen Iverson to NASCAR. That doesn't all. I don't.
I don't know about you, but I had never seen AI driving behind the wheel of a NASCAR car like that. But that's just me. Maybe in another world, maybe in the literal AI world these days. I don't know. But I do. I want to talk. I definitely want to get some quick words in about the podcast. I know you had mentioned earlier in the conversation you've been doing about 4 years. Kind of just
Mhm.
started on your phone. I'm more curious just about the evolution of where that starting point was for you, to where you are today, and why you continue to do it, just kind of in general. And I definitely want to make sure that you're letting people know where they could find the Sprinkle Some Salt podcast as well.
Yeah. So, oh man, the way that story happened. So the way the podcast happened. Actually, let me start at the end. I continue to do it because I'm a creative, and the conversation, the organization, the logistics of podcasting and putting the Mecca on is like an art to me. It feels like I'm creating a piece every time I do something. So that's why I continue to do it. Also because it feels like where I'm supposed to be. It's like the perfect place for me to affect the people and the community and invoke the power of what I'm able to do. Um, it really started because my wife bought me a podcasting kit. I was quasi managing some artists, doing my own personal home recordings, and I got into a situation where, like, you know what? If I'm gonna work with these artists, I can't also be an artist myself. And I realized though that I have a very political and militant side to me. Shout out to Public Enemy, X Clan, even NWAs, Ice T's. A lot of those sounds, Wu Tang, a lot of those sounds and concepts and words affected how I saw things, right? And so um, I realized that I have a lot to say and I have a need to say things. As an artist, though, I can't also be trying to manage other artists. That just was counterproductive. Doesn't make sense.
Mm-hmm.
So, how do I say what I need to say without trying to be an artist? I'll start a podcast. How do I brand and promote my apparel business, my wife's edible business, and these other artists that I work with? A podcast. So it just all made sense. Um, I'm also a guy that just can't do more than one thing, or I can't do just one thing.
Yeah,
Multiple,
bro. I'm
you
with you.
know,
I'm the same. Yep.
idea comes up and I start jumping, right? And so the way the podcast originally started was the wife bought me the kit. We had the microphone, we had the laptop, we were running, and it was going to be a whole family affair. We had like 5 of us. It was audio. We would pull the phone out and go live. And so those were the original, like they're still posted to YouTube, right? There's like maybe a whole season's worth of just panel audio discussions. Um, we discovered in there that my son and I, Big Thrax, have a really good rapport. So him and I started doing um like duo or dolo or duet interviews, right? Or podcasts. And even then it was like, okay, I didn't have the camera. I could get the audio, but I wanted the video. I wanted the visual. So we'll just, you know what, Instagram lets you go live. We'll go live. And that then became another segment of, you know what, I can do these conversations with the wife and the family, and then I can start tapping in with the local artists. And the idea for me was like, not only do I get to talk to local artists, but I get to learn about the local artists and they get to learn about me, and I
Yep.
can build a network. And one of those local artists can end up wearing my brand, or one of those local artists can end up loving the wife's edibles. It just made sense, right? Um, and it fed my need to talk. So that's how Conversations from the Cardiac was born. And that was really the main IG scenario. And then as the Sprinkle Some Salt as a whole podcast developed, the schedules and concepts really aligned to where I think I can handle this. And then it became like, oh, there's live show elements that we can go out to this show and just grab random content. We just get some wireless mics and get a tripod, and just every new segment actually was born because of a new piece of equipment that I realized we could use. Like, oh, I could do that. Well, let's go do this. You know what I mean? So, um, and I think that's what keeps me going, is that there's new ways to be creative. There's new ways to tell stories of
Mm-hmm.
the people. I'm big on lore. I'm big on background. Um, and the other thing that keeps me going is I realize the value in podcasting. I think podcasts are the new media. Um, most of the people get there. I do like little research questions, and people don't realize that they're part of a research study, right? But I've noticed over the last 3 years that I've asked this question: where do you get your news? Very few people tune into a TV show for their news. Very few people read a newspaper for their news. Most people go to social media, which is really the virtual version of word of mouth.
Yep.
So the other angle that I've heard people mention is podcasts. Joe Rogan is like the number one newscaster in the world at this point, right?
Yes, he is.
So he is the talk piece of the universe at this point. So I realized very early on in the last once I started, I realized like there's a whole media angle here. There's a whole, besides being a social media influencer, there is a literal media influence that's happening. So I took it, I took it and ran with it and became like, oh, wait, I can be professional and I can hustle and I can be creative and I can affect my community. It just checked every box that I would create. That works too. All that works too. So yeah, that's how it was born. That's where we're at. Multiple segments, multiple different shows. Like I do the live shows, I do the IG, I do the studio. Um, I'll pull up and interview you in your space at your office. I obviously work heavily on artists. I work with businesses, entrepreneurs. I'm also branching into sports. Um, they're just I'm going to be hosting a Tekken EVO competition. So I'm getting into video games
That's what's
and
up.
also esports, right? Um, so with the skits and the comedy and the promotions, that's also a bit of network executiveship. So we're I'm building a way for me to express all the different random shits that I like through my podcast. That's what keeps me going, because like, oh man, it's a random thought. How do I get that out? Dude, boom.
I love it. And where can people find the podcast,
Yeah.
the Sprinkle Some Salt podcast?
Oh man, the easiest place is through IG. Sprinkle some, and some is SUM salt.podcast. We also are on YouTube. The links for the YouTube and everything are on Instagram, so that's a great place. We have Facebook, Sprinkle Some Salt Podcast. The YouTube is Sprinkle Some Salt Podcast as well. Go to the IG, hit the links. That'll take you to our Facebook. It'll take you to our YouTube. The other important thing that it'll take you to is at the Mecca KC, which is the Instagram for the monthly showcase. And also there is a link for a GoFundMe. I don't talk about it much, just because I understand people don't have a whole lot of disposable income, and I don't want you to feel like you're wasting your dollars on this piggy bank when you could spend that $10 and come to the Mecca. But if you have extra funds available, if you're so inclined, we do have a GoFundMe that helps build up what we're looking to do, which is get a permanent space. Um, Add additional. We want to get to the point where we can add, I don't know, flowers and trees, and just we want to dress it up, right? Um, but yeah, just hit the IG, go from there, and from there it'll take you to everything else. And I know we got to wrap up, but I do want to say,
All good.
um, in the 3 years that I've been podcasting, in the 2 years that we've been doing the Mecca, I've had great, tremendous, powerful support from not only the community but also from my wife, from my family, from my friends. So I want to make sure I especially shout out Thratch Pastry. They've been our OG number one sponsor for the podcast and the Mecca since the inception. I want to shout out to Psych Studios. They allow me to do what I do and grow and fund the Mecca through there. Bargain Hunters, Paradise, Sherry's Executive Lounge have been consistent, steady sponsors. So I want to, and also one more, and I'll be done.
You're good, bro. You talk as long as you want. As long as you want, bro.
The Sanctuary Entertainment, I want to give them a big shout out because they have helped us secure sound for the last 3 to 4 months and going forward. And the sound is a heartbeat of everything. So with their sponsorship and support, we're able to do what we have to do. And then last but not least, Kinship Cafe. We've got a great deal with them. We've landed a space with them. It'll be our first time at their space, and I'm very excited for the opportunity to grow and expand with them at Kinship Cafe. So shout out to all of the Meccas, or shout out to all the Meccas, shout out to all the people that have supported us and all of the sponsors that help us keep this thing going.
No, I appreciate you all the shout. Again, I said it earlier. This is your show, bro. So you talk about whoever, however, whatever way that you want, bro. This is the Bump Jonas. We outside live today. That's exactly what this is.
Thank you. As you can tell, I talk a lot, so I have to kind of keep myself measured. Like, all right, bro, shut up, slow down. You know what I mean?
Trust me, I'm the same way. I'm the same way sometimes. So I feel you, bro. I feel you. No, I sincerely want to. I want to thank you for your time today. I want to thank you for your openness. I want to thank you for your insights, the stories, and most importantly, I want to thank you for your trust, bro. For real, because there's a lot of people, especially as you know, as a podcaster, there's a lot of people out here who have agendas when it comes to having some conversations, and pretty much everybody that we've ever had a conversation with. And that's why I always let people know, right from the rip when we invite you onto the show, that we're authentic, we're unscripted. There's no agenda other than just having a human conversation about some shit.
I love it.
Because when you're outside, it's real when you're outside. And that's exactly what we're about, man. So, more than anything, we appreciate the trust that you had in us to be able to have this conversation with me today. I mean that on behalf of myself, our co-host, and my brother Dooney, and everybody that supports our conversation platform here as well. But I'm gonna end the live stream. If you got like 3 minutes, don't go anywhere, bro, because we're still in the studio here. But I'm gonna end the live stream. Anybody that's tapped in, not from the jump with us, this conversation is going to live permanently on the We Outside Live podcast YouTube channel. We will share it all somewhere along the way as well. But we appreciate y'all tapping with us, opening that door, and the conversation that we had with Bump Jonas today. And I will tell you the thing that I learned so many different things. But one thing, if y'all didn't pick it up when he was talking about his podcasting and where it started to where it is now, two things that I think that y'all should take out of it. Number one is evolution. You got to keep on evolving, because if you don't, with that adaptation, then you're at some point you're going to get ran out. You're going to run yourself out. And number two, especially as an entrepreneur, diversification. Diversification is very, very important. That leads to sustainability, as well as those partnerships that you were talking about there as well. So there's many levels to this game, and Bump Jonas dropped a bunch of motherfucking gems today. So I hope y'all caught them, because I definitely did. I always learn something. I learned some shit today. So my brother, thank you. Don't go nowhere. I'm in the live stream right now. And hey, people, next Friday, the 29th, the Mecca. If you are in the surrounding KC area, greater or otherwise, within a 2-3 hour drive, next Friday, well, you need to be where I'm going to be next Friday, and that is at the Mecca. So that's where we're at. And I'm going to be dropping all the information in our pages here, to the Sprinkle Some Salt podcast, to the Mecca, anything else that we need to. So, all right, let me end this real quick. People, we're closing the door on you. We will see you next weekend for Put the Guns Down, We Outside. And next Sunday, we got a KC legend in the building next Sunday. Big Court from the Holding Court podcast. Next Sunday coming at us.